Welcome back to Mystery Case X. Today we're continuing our Strange Case series with a case that happened in Oklahoma in 2010. This is one of those murders that leaves you with a lot to think about. So let's get straight into the details. The story begins with the family of Lewis Keith Fryer Jr. At the time of the case, he was 50 years old and lived with his two children, a son and a daughter. His son, Keith Fryer, was 18. His daughter, Callie Fryer, was only 15. 13 years earlier, Lewis had divorced his wife. Back then, his son was about 5, and his youngest daughter was about 2. He chose to end the marriage because his ex-wife, Tricia, could not give up her reckless lifestyle. He had once hoped that after marriage and children she would change. But she remained unstable, drinking, smoking, and using drugs. During her pregnancy with Callie, she was even addicted to drugs. Those harmful habits did not stop even after the youngest child turned 2. So Lewis decided to divorce her. He was afraid that kind of life would affect his children. With that kind of past, his ex-wife could not win custody. Usually in a divorce, the court examines custody very carefully. But because the mother's background was so complicated, the court gave Lewis custody of both children. For the next 13 years, Lewis was basically a single father, working, caring for his children, raising them and teaching them as best he could. For a long time, life seemed to move forward quietly. Then, in 2010, disaster came crashing into the Fryer family. On the morning of May 13th, 2010, a call came into 911. On the other end was the terrified voice of Callie Lewis' 15-year-old daughter. Through tears, she said, "Please come here. My dad is dead. There's blood everywhere in the room." Right after that emergency call, police rushed to the scene. When they arrived and searched the house, they found Lewis Fryer's body inside his bedroom. He had suffered many injuries, including multiple stab wounds, and the condition of his body suggested that before he died, he had fought hard against his attacker. But he did not survive. From the initial examination, investigators believed the fatal wound was to his neck. That wound killed him there at the scene. When police checked the rest of the house, they found that nothing valuable appeared to be missing, except for Lewis's car, which had been parked outside. Because of that, the case was not initially treated as a simple robbery murder. Valuable items were still inside the house. Only the car had been taken, most likely so the killer could escape. At first, police believed Lewis may have had an enemy, or that someone had a conflict with the family and decided to attack him. After processing the scene, police began questioning the people connected to the case. First, they spoke with Kaylee. She said that every morning her father would come to her room, knock on the door, and wake her up for school. But that morning, it did not happen. She woke up on her own at around 7 o'clock. She went looking for her father, walked into his bedroom, and found the horrifying scene. Her dad was dead in a room full of blood. When investigators asked whether she knew anyone who hated her father, Callie said she didn't. According to her, everyone liked him. He was a good man. During the interview, she cried as she answered, sobbing over and over. At times, she seemed close to fainting, which made the questioning difficult. Police then spoke with her older brother, 18-year-old Keith. Keith said he had no idea what had happened because he had spent the night at a friend's house. When he came home, the police were already there, and that was how he learned his father was dead. Keith's friends confirmed that he had been with them that night, giving him an alibi. Police then contacted others connected to the family. They questioned Lewis's ex-wife. Although she had a history of partying, drinking, smoking, and drug use that was a separate issue, she had a clear alibi, so police determined she was not involved in the murder. Next, investigators expanded the search. They spoke with neighbors around Lewis's neighborhood to see if anyone had seen anything suspicious or knew anything useful. Most of the neighbors said Lewis was a kind, cheerful, friendly man who rarely offended anyone. No one could understand why someone like him would be killed so brutally. During those neighborhood interviews, police spoke with two of Callie's classmates. They said that in their opinion, Callie's father was a good man. Whenever he saw his daughter's friends, he smiled and treated them kindly. But Callie herself was different. At school, she had a reputation for being trouble, almost like the leader of a small clique. She had her own group, and if another student crossed that group or crossed Callie, she might slap them in the face or have her friends block another girl's path and beat her up. Callie had been disciplined and expelled more than once, but Lewis would go to the school, plead for another chance, and ask them to let his daughter return. That was how she kept going back. After hearing what people said about this 15-year-old girl, police began looking at her more carefully. During the first interview, Callie had cried, fainted, and appeared fragile, as if she could not handle the shock. But, according to her classmates, she was also tough, hot-tempered, and had a history of violence at school. So, investigators kept speaking with more of Callie's friends. The more they asked, the more the stories lined up. One person said that because Callie caused so much trouble, Lewis had started enforcing strict discipline at home and setting rules specifically for her. According to her friends, Kaylee was furious about those rules. She had told them she hated her father because he controlled her schedule too tightly and made her feel like she was in prison. As the investigation widened, police uncovered something even more alarming. Callie was in a relationship with a 21-year-old man. He was 6 years older than her, and under Oklahoma law, 15 was still a minor. That meant the relationship already showed signs of being illegal. As other leads weakened, police began focusing on Callie and her boyfriend. They learned that the boyfriend's name was Jad Childs. He was a young man with no stable job, the kind of person who seemed to drift through life without much direction. At first, Callie and Jay dated openly. When her father found out, he immediately tried to put his daughter back under control, managing who picked her up, where she went, and how she spent her time. But even after being forbidden from seeing each other, Callie and Jay continued the relationship in secret. One day, Lewis discovered that they were still dating. He became furious. He scolded both his daughter and Jay directly and told Jay to stay away from his child. If Jay refused, Lewis said he would call the police. When investigators asked Keith about this, he confirmed it. He said their father had been right to stop the relationship, but Kaylee continued seeing Jay behind his back. After Lewis banned them from being together, she still found ways to meet him. Whenever her father was not home, Kaylee would have Jay come over, and the two would have sex inside the house. Lewis may not have known all of it, but neighbors had seen Jay there many times. From there, police began asking a serious question. If Jay had been sneaking into the house so often, could he be the killer? It was entirely possible. Maybe he had not gone there intending to kill anyone. But if he was inside with Callie and Lewis caught them, there could have been a confrontation that escalated into Lewis's death. That was the first theory investigators considered. So they searched for Jay Chills. When they caught him, he initially insisted that he had nothing to do with the murder. But investigators kept pushing. At that point, the crime scene had not left clear physical evidence pointing to the killer, and the murder weapon had not been found, so there was not much hard forensic evidence. Still, police kept working the interview. Eventually, Jay claimed that on the night of the murder, he had secretly gone to the house and was with Kelly when Lewis suddenly discovered them. According to Jay, Lewis attacked him with a golf club. Jay said he tried to dodge the blows, but Lewis kept swinging. Jay claimed he ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife to defend himself, and accidentally killed Lewis. But that story did not hold up. First, Lewis was found dead in his bedroom with his body on the bed. Second, there was a set of golf clubs in the house, but the clubs were still neatly arranged inside the bag. There was no sign that any had been taken out and used. Realizing Jay was lying, police questioned him more deeply. Jay may have had some street experience, but he was still only 21. Under the pressure of the interrogation and the constant questions, his story began to change. The second time, he said he had actually gone into the house to look for money. He thought Callie's father was well off, so he slipped into the bedroom to steal from him. But Lewis caught him, and that was why he killed him. But this second version still did not make sense. If he had gone there to steal money, why was nothing missing? The cash was still there. The valuables were still there. Only the car was gone. Jay admitted that the car had only been taken so he could escape. He drove it to a location south of the city, abandoned it, and fled on foot. Police kept pressing because they knew Jay still had not told the whole truth. When the truth finally came out, everyone was stunned. Jay had gone there that night with the intention of killing his girlfriend's father. And the person who asked him to do it was Callie, his 15-year-old girlfriend. According to Jay, Callie had asked him many times to kill her father so she could inherit his property and be free to love Jay without her father's strict control. At first, Jay refused. But Kaylee kept painting a future for him. She told him that once her father was dead, they would have money, a house, and a happy life together using the inheritance. Those promises slowly worked on Jay's greed. Still, money alone was not enough to make him decide to kill. Then, Callie told Jay she was pregnant. She said that if her father found out, both of them would be ruined. On top of that, her father could report Jay to the authorities for having sex with a minor, and Jay could go to prison. When Jay heard that his girlfriend was supposedly pregnant, he began to think there was only one way to protect himself and her: kill Lewis. That way he could avoid being reported, get money to live on, and prepare for a future with Callie and the child he thought she was carrying. Callie used both money and the idea of fatherhood to push him toward murder. That night, the crime happened according to the plan Callie had built. Her job was simple. She only had to wait until morning, go into her father's room, see that he was dead, and call 911. She had not physically taken part in killing him. At first, Jay planned to take the blame alone. But after police told him that testing showed Callie was not pregnant at all, and that she had lied to manipulate him, Jay nearly broke down. Part of it was guilt over what he had done. Another part was the shock of realizing that his own girlfriend had deceived him, used him, and pushed him into murder. After that, Jay decided to cooperate with police. He became a witness and revealed Callie's role in the case. Because of his testimony in July 2010, Instead of facing the death penalty, Jay received a life sentence. Callie Lynn Fryer was tried in May 2011. By then, she was 16, though she had been 15 at the time of the murder. Callie was charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of sentence reduction if she showed good behavior. In a bitter way, the dream she and Jay had once imagined did come true. After killing her father, they both ended up with a very secure home. Each morning, someone wakes them up. Someone guards the doors. Meals are served on schedule, and they may have to live there for the rest of their lives. The only difference is that they are not together anymore. Each of them is locked away in a different place. When I think about this case, there are a few things I want to share. This is only my personal opinion. It may be right or wrong. It may or may not match what you think. You can leave your own thoughts in the comments. To me, it is possible that Lewis was so busy raising two children on his own, working, providing, and trying to be both father and mother, that he did not recognize his daughter's violent and troubled behavior early enough. A clear example is how often Kelly fought and attacked other students at school. Every time the school disciplined her or expelled her, Lewis went in and begged them to let her come back. Then, when she began a relationship with Jay, he suddenly cracked down hard, controlling her schedule, her routines, her school hours, her meals, and her time outside. Maybe before that, because he had been overwhelmed, he had not tightened the rules or corrected her behavior from the beginning. I often say that too much of anything can become harmful. Even medicine taken in excess can become poison. Too much freedom, then too much control, can both lead to consequences no one expects. But saying that does not mean the blame belongs entirely to the father. Callie may have lacked a mother's love, but her older brother did too. And there are many people in the world who grow up without enough love from a mother or father, even without either parent, yet they do not become killers or harm society. So another question can be asked. Was Callie influenced by her environment, by heredity, or by what happened during her mother's pregnancy? In some previous cases, I've mentioned factors like impulsiveness, rebellion, and behavioral tendencies that can be shaped by both environment and biology. Callie's mother had lived a reckless life. Even after marriage and children, she did not stop partying, drinking, smoking, or using drugs. And during her pregnancy with Callie, she used drugs. We all know that alcohol and cigarettes alone can seriously affect an unborn child, let alone drugs. So it is possible that those harmful substances affected Callie's development before she was even born. I think that possibility and the impact may have been serious. Everything in the human body is controlled by the brain. The way the brain receives and processes information can shape the way a person acts. If someone's brain interprets things in a positive way, they may respond positively. But if the brain sees everything through a negative or distorted lens, that person may be more likely to feel and act in negative ways. For example, imagine two children who both enjoy rough, violent games when they are young. They like fighting swordplay toy guns, staging pretend battles. That does not mean both of them will grow up to become criminals. One child might grow up to become a martial artist and athlete, or if they like weapons investigation and justice, maybe even a police officer or someone who protects the law. But another child might drift toward gangs, robbery, or violence. The same childhood interest can lead to very different futures, depending on environment, education, life experiences, and how that person's character develops. With Calais at 15 during one of the most sensitive stages of adolescence, she had already gone off course. Add in selfishness, the habit of thinking only about her own wants, and the possible effects of family environment or prenatal drug exposure, and her thinking seems to have moved far outside normal limits. The most frightening part is that she did not just think about murder. She thought about killing her own father. For most people, that is almost impossible to imagine. Maybe when we were younger, after being scolded or punished by our parents, we felt angry. Maybe we even thought we hated them or said cruel things in the heat of the moment. But that is a temporary emotion. Planning to kill a parent and actually carrying it out is a completely different line. That is not normal anger anymore. That is something deeply cruel and deeply broken. That is my view of this case. Again, it is only my personal opinion. It may be right or wrong, and it may not match what you think. You can leave your thoughts in the comments. That is where today's case ends. We'll continue with more cases in the next videos. For now, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again next time.